If you're over 40 and struggling with longer recovery times, nagging injuries, or feeling like your body just can't bounce back like it used to, you're not alone. Today, I'm joined by Sara Manderscheid, founder of Elevate Your Running Coaching in Boulder, Colorado, and we're revealing 5 crucial recovery secrets that every Masters runner needs to know to keep you running strong well into your 40s, 50s, and beyond. Welcome back to the Healthy Runner Podcast. I'm Dr. Duane Scotti, and if this is your first time here, we help runners over 40 get stronger, run faster, and enjoy lifelong injury free running. Today's episode is extra special because I have an incredible guest with me. Sara Manderscheid is founder of and head coach at Elevate Your Running Coaching. She's a podcaster and a dedicated endurance athlete based in Boulder, Colorado. Sara has made it her mission to help athletes chase big dreams, break through plateaus, and find joy and flexibility in their running. Like, what else can you want, right? Sara, welcome to the show.
Hi, Duane. Thank you so much for having me on today. I'm really, really excited and passionate about this topic. So, thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm excited to chat with you. And before we dive into these game changing recovery secrets, tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and like what drew you to focus on helping runners elevate their performance.
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, I'm head founder, head coach of Elevate Your Running, and we're based in Boulder, Colorado. And I started this coaching business 4 years ago. So it was right after the pandemic. And I was really, really passionate about helping runners not only reach their goals, but also feel really seen and heard in the running space. I think that's such a big issue within our society, within our communities. And when people can feel seen and heard, and they also maybe have that combination of feeling really confident in training, it all works together to create this really amazing human. And the more like amazing humans we have out there, I think the better our world is. And it's been a lot of fun over the last 4 years. I'm also an endurance athlete. I am a master's runner. I am chasing that sub 3 marathon that, I think it's like, well, I hope I get it, but I'm also, about to turn 43 and there's a lot going on there, but it is really exciting to go after goals and to chase goals and to train hard, while also having that balance of working in fun in life. Like you had mentioned, having that joy, having that fun, having that balance between all of it is really important to me. And it's something that I think really helps training too. When you can, kind of step out and have fun, and we'll talk a little bit more about that today.
Yeah, some of those breakthroughs, right, are occur when we actually take the pressure off, right? And you actually enjoy the process. Like, and I love that you have that training philosophy, and I've heard it on your show before of just like finding that joy and having like enjoyment. Because if you're not enjoying the training, like, then why are you doing this, right? Like, why are you trying to chase big goals and meet these dreams if you're not enjoying it?
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting because I think a lot of runners are type A. And I'm going to say a lot of runners because I've had some people that I coach call me out on saying all runners are type A. So I'm like, most runners maybe are type A. And I fall into this category. And I think we can get really serious about training and be hyper focused on the things that don't necessarily move the needle, but maybe just add more pressure to training. And like you said, like it can really be like this domino effect of where you can just continue to put pressure on yourself. Maybe the workouts aren't coming together and you lose that joy, you lose your why, you lose that love of why you got into it in the first place. And I mean, to be just fully transparent, I've teetered in that space too, of like just being too hyper focused on training, and not finding the fun and the joy in it. So we're all in it together.
Yeah, it's a growth journey, right? For sure. And I am what I like to call an adult onset runner. Started running after I had, two kids, and as I was a dad, just trying to kind of get healthy again after I had hip surgery. Have you always run, or did you find like running later in life?
Yeah, that's a great question because I didn't talk about that in the intro. So I got into running a little bit later in life. So it was post collegiately, like post college, and it was really because I'm a very active person just naturally. I love movement. I love being outside, and throughout my childhood, high school, college years, I was able to achieve that while still being in school and having friends and being social. Well, then cut to getting out of school and having my first real desk job where I'm sitting 8 to 5 and I'm in an office with fluorescent lighting and I'm wearing like an outfit that makes me feel uncomfortable, but it's like what I'm supposed to be wearing, and I just didn't like it. I was so it was so foreign to me that I needed to like move my body in a way after work. And one of the perks of my job was that we had a free gym membership, and it was literally a quarter mile down the street, so I could like walk there if I wanted to after work. It was a beautiful gym, beautiful facility, and I started running, and I picked up running quickly. It was something that made me feel a lot better after a long work day. So this was when I was 22, 23, and really leaned into it. Spent the summers running in the hometown that I grew up in Michigan, and I would run through. I'd run on like Michigan trails, which is a lot different than Colorado trails, and I'd run by the beach, and it just lit me up inside. I just loved it. So that's how I got started. And I ran a lot of 5Ks, 10Ks initially when I got into running. And then I took a break from running for about 7-ish years. I moved out to Colorado and I really wanted to get into everything else Colorado, which is like hiking, camping, exploring, and running just didn't really fit in that stage of life. But when I came back to it in 2016, it was like you find your way home and it just feels so good to be back into it. And I ran my first marathon in 2019 and that like sealed the deal. I worked with a coach for the first time and I thought, "Oh, wow, this is really cool. I love everything about this. I want to keep going." And I ran my first marathon in 3:25 and
Wow.
for me that was exciting to say like,
Yeah, it's
"Oh, okay,
impressive.
maybe I do have a sub 3 in me." So, that's kind of where that goal came from.
Yeah, so you're actually still relatively young in your marathon journey.
Yeah. My training
Yeah.
age is young. My marathon journey is young. Right now I'm scheduled to run the Chicago Marathon. It'll be my 8th marathon, and I'm dealing with a little bit of a plantar issue, which is my first real, I'm just gonna say the word injury, which I've been in denial about. So I'm working through that now. Chicago's still on the table, so I'm hoping it's my 8th, and if it's not, that's okay too.
Well, we got a whole episode on plantar fasciitis, and actually, last summer, that's what knocked me out of my training for the first time in 13 years, and that I actually
Oh.
wound up tearing it. So, I would highly recommend that you get some good medical advice and work with someone who knows how to help runners with this condition. Because, yeah, you don't want to have to be sidelined and not running at all. So, it is something that you can definitely manage and continue to train. Um,
Mhm.
so, yeah,
Yeah.
well, thank you for sharing all that. I think it's always nice to hear other people's running journeys and like where they got to, where they are right now. Um, and I know our audience of masters runners is going to love like what we're going to be covering today. And if you're new to the show, we teach you how to execute the 6 key parts of your running journey. So you'll not only actually feel more confident in getting stronger and faster, you'll stay healthy and enjoy the process again. And what are those parts? Number 1 is mindset, 2 is strength training, 3 is the run plan, 4 is nutrition, 5 is recovery, and 6 is race strategy. Therefore, in today's episode, Sara is going to be filling your recovery bucket with a bunch of goodies. And these 5 recovery secrets we're about to share aren't just theory. They're proven strategies that can literally transform how you feel and perform as a runner over 40. So, whether you're training for your first marathon after 40, you're trying to get back to running after an injury, or just want to feel stronger and more energized in your daily runs, stick around because this information could be exactly what you need to take your running to the next level. So, Sarah, let's jump right in. What's the first recovery secret that masters runners are missing?
Yes. Okay. I absolutely love this. So, the first secret is protein. We need to increase our protein. And you might be thinking, how in the heck is that like a recovery secret? Well, masters runners need more protein so we can recover faster from those really hard workouts and be able to do what we want to do in training to be able to reach our goals, whether that is running your first marathon or coming back from an injury. So it's really important, especially female masters runners, that we really get in adequate protein. So studies have shown that 1.6 to 2 grams per kilo of body weight is really the ideal kind of daily intake that we should have. And I think protein, just in terms of endurance athletes, is one of those pieces in the running training puzzle that is really missed, and people don't focus on it as much because we're constantly talking about carbohydrates and how we need the carbohydrates for energy and for to be able to run the marathon and not hit the wall. But the protein side is so critical and so important. So ideally, we're consuming protein throughout the entire day. We're not just stacking it within like one portion of the day. So it's like this protein drip. I have a joke that I have like a caffeine drip in me, like in
Same.
most times. Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, I need this. And it's like a protein drip throughout the day where you're just getting in, hopefully it's like 25 to 40 grams of protein per meal, and then also included in your snacks. And one of the best ways to make sure that you are recovering well and your muscles are recovering well, um, from those hard workouts and from those long runs is also when you finish those harder efforts that you consume protein immediately. So this has been one of the biggest changes I've made in my own training. I started running like higher mileage when I started working with a new coach about 3 years ago, and something that I incorporated once I turned 40 is that I take a protein drink. I drink a protein drink immediately following hard effort. So if I'm at the track, that means a little cooler bag comes with me. It's in my car. I'm ready to consume it ASAP. Same is true for long runs. You also notice that you feel a little bit more energized throughout the day. And I think we all want to feel that way because we just recover a little bit faster. We get some nutrients in our body, some calories in our body. So we're able to start the recovery process immediately rather than if we were to wait, we would delay that recovery process. And for anyone listening who's 40 or over, maybe you're like at the cusp of 40, you might be feeling that recovery window needing to be bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's so normal.
Wow, that was I love that you had protein as tip number 1 because if I had to guess, like, what tip 1 was, I would have never guessed protein actually, but I love, like, that was like my face is like, "Oh, I wasn't expecting that." That was awesome, though.
Yeah.
I love that because if we're not actually refueling from the training that we're doing, like, we're breaking down those muscles, right, when we are running fast, when we're doing workouts, when we're doing strength training, and it's actually the rebuilding, right, of our muscles when we're not training that occurs in how we actually get stronger and how we get faster. So I love the fact that you really double down on the nutrition for recovery. Our registered dietitian, Brooke, who's been on the show many times before, she's probably smiling somewhere that you started out with protein. I love it. And I couldn't agree more about, I feel like there's these two camps of runners. Like you said, there are the, I don't know, maybe I'll say experienced runners, experienced marathoners, or even runners who grew up running in, whether it was high school, college, who understand the importance of carbs, and they're like all carbs, no protein. But then we have many runners in our community who got into running later in life, and they come from maybe like a diet culture lens that have like bastardized carbs. And they're trying to do low carb, no carb, and I see so many times where runners are like doing all protein and no carbs. So I feel like there's these two like opposite ends of the spectrum. But everything that you said is so crucial and important for recovery, to make sure that it's balanced carbs and protein, especially after your workouts, but then throughout the day as well. So I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said it best, like there is like that balance. And I really want to like reiterate that yes, as we're consuming protein after our workouts and our long runs, we should also be consuming carbohydrates. But I think a lot of runners do kind of at least the runners in my experience, and I'm thinking of like when I chat with the Elevate Your runners and the team, like I hear a lot about, oh, don't worry, Coach Sara, I have carbs like dialed. It's really like the protein that I have to work on, which is a really great shift in our society because, like you said, I think with diet culture and um, the messaging around carbohydrates, there are people who do still continue to lean into that high protein, low carbohydrate diet. It is a balancing act for sure, but I think one of the most important things you can do after a hard effort is really consume that protein ASAP.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. What's another key recovery strategy that makes a big difference for runners over 40?
Yeah. So one of my friends who is, she's 4 years older than me, maybe about 5 years older than me. She said to me years ago when she was over 40, but I was in that like what I would deem like a pretty good age and space in my training, which was 37, 38. She said, get ready. You are going to need more rest and more recovery between your workouts. And I thought, no way. And that is a secret that I think a lot of runners don't understand over 40 is that we need more rest, more recovery as we are going through our training cycle, especially if we're in a bigger training cycle because our body is just taking longer to recover. We could absolutely take that protein in as soon as we get done with a workout. We pair it with a carbohydrate. Maybe it's a 3-to-1 ratio of carbs to protein, but we're still nailing that protein intake daily. We're nailing the carbohydrate. We have our fueling and hydration super dialed. Our body still needs more time between workouts. I definitely feel it now. Like, I definitely feel like sometimes a 3 workout week is a lot and it's too much. And, it's taking a lot to kind of get over that recovery hump. So I think it's really important that we recognize and understand that every runner needs rest and recovery. We should all, I think, I'm a big believer in having at least one rest day a week. I think that's super important. I think it's also really important to be strategic with that rest and recovery. What are we actually doing? I had Kylie Mance on the podcast last month, maybe about 6 weeks ago, and she's the wife of Connor Mance. And she was saying on the podcast about how when they started living together and dating and living together, and she would just kind of see him day to day. And she's like, he would just be like laying on the couch after a workout or after a long run. And I was like, dude, there are things to do in the house. We have got to like keep doing like, life and get through like chores and different things. And she's like, I had no idea that that was like part of his recovery is like, I need to take some downtime. Now, I think it's really important to also be strategic with that recovery and really making sure that you are if you need time on the couch to maybe watch a show or whatever, that's great, but I think there's also a really nice like active recovery that we can do, and that can be maybe going for a light walk, maybe doing which I'm going to get to, some mobility, doing something that is a little bit outside of what we think of as just that normal sit on the couch. I'm just going to sit here and quote unquote recover because it doesn't necessarily work the same way over 40.
Okay. So what I heard there is just making sure that workouts throughout the week. So if you are, a runner who's doing speed workouts, make sure they're strategically placed in your week. We're not stacking back-to-back days or even perhaps, only one day in between like workouts. Trying to make sure there's maybe at least 2 days in between workouts. And then the other thing that I'm a firm believer, like you said, is one rest recovery day, no running, not strength training, not doing anything hard effort. And we're allowing our bodies to actually recover from the training efforts. Yeah, I think your point is definitely well taken that we need to space out our recovery, being mindful of how we work the training plan, so to speak, and not stacking back to back work days, workout days, stressful time periods also in there in someone's personal life, work life, um, and then having that one like full rest recovery day.
It's really critical and crucial, I believe, like, especially if you're a runner who is used to running 3 workouts a week, and then you notice that the recovery just isn't happening, and you're noticing maybe you're not able to hit targets like you used to. I think it's really taking a look at that schedule, being very strategic with that training schedule, and making some shifts and adjustments, and sometimes it's like not doing like, maybe the way that we have done it isn't necessarily gonna be the way that we do it moving forward, and that's okay because you can still get the same result. You could get better results from it. You don't know unless you try, and, the best part about it is that if you're recovering because maybe you went down from 3 workouts to 2, and I say like that in a sense of, like, maybe 2 real workouts and then a long run for that 3rd day, that you're able to really get more out of it and it's more enjoyable, you're recovering more, all the good things.
I truly hope that you're getting value from this video, and I wanted to take a brief moment to share with you one of my most recommended naturally sourced food supplements for runners that supercharges your recovery from running. And that is the power of Blackcurrant, which is a berry, by the way, just like blueberries, but they have the highest level of anthocyanins, which is a strong antioxidant of any berry. And CurraNz has a product that's conveniently packs these super berries into a capsule. As I frequently say, recovery is a part of the training, and you can only run as fast or as long as you can recover from that run in order to stay healthy for longevity. CurraNz is taken as a pre workout supplement, and it's going to help improve your recovery times and reduce the effects of fatigue or muscle soreness after a hard run or strength session. There are over 50 studies investigating the effects of these super berries, and CurraNz has been studied to improve blood flow by up to 45%, which removes metabolites from our muscles, reduces oxidative stress. In fact, a recent British study actually showed that CurraNz helped accelerate recovery of muscle function 3 times faster than placebo. And soreness in the active group reduced up to 49%. Tissue damage was reduced by 84%, which is attributed to the improvement in blood flow that was seen, as well as blackcurrant's anthocyanins' inherent antioxidant and anti inflammatory properties. You can learn more about the real science behind blackcurrant extract with my interview with Floor Cushman in the video that I have for you linked in the description if you want to learn more and get into some of the science. And having a supplement that is backed by science is important to me. And it's what I look at when I put anything in my body, is the reason why I've been using CurraNz for the last 2 years, because I was looking for a supplement to help maximize my recovery from hard marathon training so I could stay healthy during the training. And now that you're a part of our Healthy Runner community, you can get 20% off your first order using the link that I have for you in the description. You can go to CurraNzUSA.com. Just use the code HealthyRunner during checkout when placing your order. Go ahead and give CurraNz a try to help you recover from those runs. Trust me, you won't regret it. As we go to, I think we're on tip number 3 now. What's the third tip that you have for recovery that might be a little underrated, but also incredibly effective for for us masters runners.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So proper mobility and stretching. I think this is huge. I think it's also maybe how I got into the situation that I'm in right now. Um, I noticed a few years ago when I started doing more consistent mobility work, and this is going to come actually the mobility work I was doing came after the run, but I think it's really important to head into a run with a good, proper warm up first. I think that's first and foremost. So before you go out for that easy 45 minutes or the easy 5, really make sure that you are ready to go and you're not just like getting out of bed, maybe drinking a few sips of coffee because we have that caffeine drip going and lace up the shoes and then head out because that's not gonna feel good. It's not gonna feel good at all. So really warming up the body, warming up the legs, leg swings, lunges, hip openers. It's all gonna help you feel so much better in miles 1, 2, and then of course at the end of the run, you're just gonna feel a little bit better. So let's say we get through that run. Now, let's grab the resistance bands. Let's either go into the gym or if you have space in your home, and let's work on mobility and let's work on really opening up the hips and the glutes and really working through all the muscles and joints and tendons to feel loose, to feel like they're recovering, to feel like they are opening up because as you recover throughout the rest of the day, you're just going to feel that much better as you head into the next day, whether that's another run, easy effort, maybe it's a workout or a long run. So when I started making time for this in my day and I was able to work in the warm up and the mobility piece to this, and it's almost like a 3-part series of a run, you end up feeling so much better. You kind of feel 10 years younger some days. And I will take that if it means 15 minutes a day going into the mobility and grabbing that resistance band. So I highly, highly recommend the proper warm up and mobility.
Yeah, Sarah, this is by far the most common thing my athletes tell me, like after our first call and we get them started and I give them, a mobility plan and it's structured out and they're doing a dynamic warm up before their runs. They're like, wow, like I didn't know that running could feel that good. I always thought I needed to wait 2 or 3 miles before, I actually felt good from running. And I think it's so crucial, I think, for any runner, but especially if you're over 40. Like, this will be like a huge game changer for you if you haven't been implementing mobility, dynamic stretching before your runs. And then I love that you kind of mentioned some like resistance band mobility stuff, whether you're doing some mobility or maybe, and it sounds like you were kind of talking almost a little stability or like stabilization exercise for like your all important hip muscles. As Shakira says, hips don't lie, and they don't lie for us as runners. So I love that you kind of added that because even after a run, I find whenever I do strength after a run, even though it's hard to do, and especially when you're doing a workout like this morning at a hard track session and then hit the gym and you're just sweaty as all can be and you have to refuel in between and you have to hydrate and you got electrolytes, you got to do all those things. Um, I feel like it does help recovery. I don't know if it's like because you're bringing even more blood flow into the area, you're moving the joints through different motions, positions than when you were running in straight plane, doing the same thing over and over again. But I feel like it does help recovery as well. So, yeah, I love your
Yeah.
point.
And I'm a big believer in when you head into the gym, you kind of feel a certain way. Let's feel better when we leave the gym. So, whatever that takes. So, if that's mobility, the strength training after track workouts and long run efforts, or around the long run, I think is super crucial, super beneficial.
Yeah. So, what's tip number 4?
Okay, so this is probably the tip you thought I was going to start out with, and this is sleep. But hear me out because I think everyone's probably rolling their eyes right now because this is the one that I think is the biggest needle mover for all runners. But I think it's the one that we take the least serious because it's the first thing to go in many people's lives. So let's think about masters runners. They are over 40, which means they most likely have a family. They most likely have a demanding job. They most likely have an abundance of friends and community, and maybe their kids are in sports and there's a lot of shuffling and things going on. They most likely have parents in aging state, and so they might need to be taking care of them more. So there is just so much going on in the master's runner's life, that sleep can very easily be the thing to kind of negotiate on to not get enough of and still get up at 4:30 to get that training run in to start the whole, next day over again. And although it's the easiest thing to take out of our schedule, it is one of the most crucial and beneficial recovery tools all runners can have, to really help them feel good going into the next run and feel good in the training cycle and feel good and stay healthy throughout the training cycle, which is a really big piece to it. I think lack of sleep creates stress. You feel kind of heavy, and I mean, I know I do. I just kind of feel gross. I just don't feel sharp. I don't feel like I can mentally focus in workouts or in long efforts, even easy efforts. And if you're showing up like that every day, something could happen out on the run. You're probably also cutting the corner of a proper warm up and a mobility because you're busy. So I think it's really important. To do the best that you can do, because I know as someone who doesn't have kids, it's easy for me to say, well, just get the sleep that you need. But I coach a lot of parents. And one of the things that we work on is really just finding the days that are maybe a little bit more important that we need to get that extra sleep, or trying to go to bed 5 or 10, 15 minutes earlier, because it's all a consistent build. And if we can just get more sleep, we don't have to get the target sleep of 8 to 9 hours, or maybe 7 to 9. 8.5 is great for me. Like, uh, it's okay. Something is better than nothing, and just doing something more than what you have been doing, I think, is a big win in this category.
Yeah, and it's so important during high periods of stress and when you're peaking in training. Like that's the one thing that I can give myself a little pat on the back, because this is the one area, like you said, that I've always been delinquent in and deficient in is the sleep bucket, and it's slowly improving. But I am proud of myself for my last two like marathon training cycles. When I am peaking in training, I do really take it seriously. And especially, like you said, strategically, like after the long runs, after the workouts, those are most important. So if I do have to negotiate a couple of nights that I am up way too late on my computer doing work, I'll make sure that it's not after those days, that it is after like an easier day. But yeah, it's the low hanging fruit, and it's, I don't know. It is one of those things. I like how you described it as our society, unfortunately, doesn't value it. And it is the first thing that we negotiate with. And we always try to do more and more and more. And unfortunately, we're like robbing ourselves of the optimal recovery and training that we could actually put forth and or reach our goals, right? So whatever that running goal of yours is, if you just got more sleep, it's going to be easier for you to hit that running goal. And it's so simple. It sounds dumb, I guess, because it is so simple and it's something you could have done 500 years ago and didn't require any cool tech. Um,
Right. And it's
right?
free.
Yeah, and it's free. You don't have to pay for it. Um, so I feel like no one talks about it, but I feel like in some circles we do talk about it, but I don't know how much people value it and listen to it. So hopefully Sarah's message gets through to you, to really embrace like good quality sleep and sleep patterns. And even I would just add to that, getting the body ready for sleep and having a consistent sleep routine. So for me, it's ideally I would read for a little bit. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't do that every night because I am running a little short on time. But it is always a daily journaling at the end of my day and then meditation.
Mm.
Even if it's 5 minutes meditation, ideally 10 would 12 is pretty much my limit. So having like a consistent sleep pattern, I think is important to like allow the body to actually get ready for sleep. So the brain actually like calms down and then you can have more like restorative and restful sleep. So I think those are super important. All right, let's get to the fifth tip here. What's our last kind of recovery essential that you would recommend to help runners like stay strong, healthy, consistent if they're over 40?
Yeah, and this might be one that you're not expecting, but it's to have fun. And I think one of the things that I talked about in the last tip was how life gets super busy over 40. It's busy for everyone, but it can be really stressful. There can be a lot of things going on. And I think it's really important to take time outside of training, outside of life, and create those pockets of joy, those pockets of fun, whether that's doing something with friends or family or a combination of both, or having a date night with your partner, doing something that really fuels your soul and just creates a lot of fun, because smiling and laughing are such a great way to decompress. And one of my favorite things to do is like go to a comedy show and just like laugh the night away, because if you can do that, you're going to come out with a much like just happier attitude, happier being, a happier vibe. And I think that that lends itself so well to recovery, to feel better, to go into that next workout, maybe a little bit more refreshed, maybe feeling if you were feeling any sort of like mental burnout or mental fatigue, you kind of feel refreshed going into it. And, running is such a team sport as much as we think it's an individual sport. So, really bringing in your team to have fun and to create those special memories and moments, I think is really important.
Yeah, I definitely didn't have that on my bingo card. I'm not gonna lie, but I can see where you're going. There is that if we are allowing that time and space away from training and allowing you to have fun, you're fully recovering. And I think anyone can
Mhm.
kind of relate to this with their job, right? So if you are working like 7 days a week, or not allowing that time on the weekends to like reset is like a huge difference. Like when you actually allow that time and space, whether it's a day, 2 days during the week, to fully not have your brain in that space, you come back more rejuvenated. So it would make sense to me that you come back to training and your body, your soul, your mind, all of that is like rejuvenated and it will help recovery with training. So I love that. And as we head down the final stretch, which is like last question we ask all our guests, it's like a misconception question. So if you can change the one thing about the misconception of recovering as a master's runner, what would that be?
Yeah, I think that's such a good question. And I feel like more isn't always better. And you might be saying, what? We just talked about how we need to be doing more. Let's be strategic with how we're doing it. What are we doing? How are we doing it? And I think that that is going to be the needle mover for you. And everyone listening today, it's going to be different for everyone, right? Like in running, the it depends answer is given all the time. So, what I need to recover as an almost 43-year-old master's runner chasing big goals and big times is going to be different from you, Duane, and it's going to be different from other people listening. And I think it's really important to take a look at your entire training plan, your life, prioritize what needs to be prioritized when, and then take a look at maybe these steps or maybe anything else that you feel like is kind of sticking out to you. Maybe it's a little red flag that's flagging in front of you, and develop a plan, develop a system to try and mitigate anything that's popping out to you, and really dial in and just be super strategic, super smart, because we don't have to spend an entire weekend recovering from a long run. We can be really smart, really strategic, do some fundamental things, and move on. Have fun, go to the party, have drinks with friends, do all the things, and you're going to get a lot more from it.
Wow. I love it. I love it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, being strategic. And it's not always about doing more recovery gadgets. And we didn't even talk about one gadget in the 5 tips, Sarah. Like there
And
wasn't
I
one
love I
tech.
love gadgets. I have all the gadgets. I
Right,
have all
right.
the gadgets. I think it's like, an whole other beast of recovery, right? Like recovery tools. Do they help? I think they're amazing. I think they're great, but I think they can help all runners, the Normatec boots, the massage gun, the Epsom salt baths. All of that is so good. It's so important. Maybe you need to do it a little bit more or more strategically as a master's runner. But yeah, the tools and gadgets out there are incredible.
Yeah, but these 5 things that you shared, I would argue are going to move that needle even more so than the latest gadget out there. So yeah, these have
Yeah.
been great. I really appreciate you sharing your expertise with us today on the show, and I can certainly chat with you like all day long about some of these recovery strategies. And if you're listening to this and you want to like take the next step toward optimizing recovery from running, you can download our ultimate guide to recovery for running. It's packed with the exact strategies I use with the runners I work with as a coach, running physical therapist. It's 100% free. Just head to learn.sparkhealthyrunner.com/recovery, or just click the link that I have for you in the show notes. Sarah, this has been like so insightful. I just love your training philosophy. Where is the best place for our healthy runner community to connect with you and learn more about all the goodness that you offer on your podcast and within the athletes that you train at Elevate?
Yeah. So my coaching business is Elevate Your Running. So you can find us online at elevateyourrunning.com. We're on Instagram and threads at Elevate Your Running. I also am the host of the Elevate Your Running podcast, which is on all podcast platforms. And you can find me personally on Instagram and threads at Sarah, which is SAYRAH runs happy.
I love it. And thank you for sharing that info. I will certainly link it all in the show notes for those listening. So check that out. It's been so great chatting with you today. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to share these tips.
Thank you so much, Duane. It was so great to be here. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. And I hope by the end of this conversation, guys, you are beginning to respect that running recovery is a major component of a well rounded running routine, helping you become more efficient, faster, and injury resilient runner in your running journey. Now you are ready to dive deep into 7 specific recovery strategies that you can add into your running today. If you're listening to this on the podcast, and queue up episode 196 on the Healthy Runner podcast. And if you're watching this on YouTube, just click the video that I have for you next. Now, let's continue to grow a strong mind, a strong body, and just keep running, friends. Until next time.